Hi guys, it is Dom here from Sounds Fair. I just had the wonderful opportunity to chat to Bailey Spinn about viral TikTok success, about confidence, about so much more, of course. So many millions of streams and hits for Bailey's content. So we talked a little bit about the effect of that and what that means to them, going into the release of a new EP as it's coming out. So there's some exciting stuff for Bailey. We also talked about the potential of coming over to the UK. Some potentially cool travel plans for Bailey somewhere down the line. But thank you so much to Bailey Spinn for the time, and I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. It was a pleasure to do. See you soon. Bailey, thank you so much for joining me today. I have watched you kind of grow and develop on social media as most of the world has now, and it's a very exciting time for you. But I have this question to start you off. It's a deep one, and it's around success. It means different things to different people, Bailey. So as you have achieved such a great level of success in such a short period of time, what does success mean to you?
I think success means being able to overcome what's holding you back and really become your full self and be able to depend on yourself and set boundaries with what you want and what you don't want. When I started social media, I had no confidence. I was the most anxious person in the world, and putting myself out there was terrifying and something I never wanted to do. And now that I've gained a platform, I feel successful in the sense that even if I do have a big number, I feel more confident putting myself out there, and it's really showed through me as a person and how I act. And I've been able to improve myself a lot. And I think that is success in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned that finding that confidence there now. Would you be confident in calling yourself a confident person now?
I think I would. I think I'm pretty confident. And I like to say that because then even if I don't feel it, I might be manifesting it into my reality. So it will become real.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to talk about, the sort of visuals you put out and the image you put out, as an artist and as a creative. How important is that visual aspect of what you do? You talking about the music videos first. We'll talk about the TikToks and stuff in a little while. But the Romance is Dead visual was amazing. Of course, it feels to me like that image is important, but it wouldn't be right for me to say that. Obviously, I'm talking to you. So how important is that visual side, that image and the brand, I guess, if that's not a dirty word, Bailey, to you?
It's really important. Imagery was a big thing, especially when writing Romance is Dead. I just have a complete vision in my mind of what this song means to me and what I want it to depict. And the Romance is Dead music video, I'm in this big house, but it's all this space by myself, and it's about feeling empty and feeling like there's nobody there to support you, and that there's nobody there who's going to put in these efforts for you. And, we had wrap on all of the furniture to kind of show there was a ghost following behind of all these failed past things, and I haven't been able to move forward from it. So imagery is definitely a big thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as an extension of that, I wanted to talk about, how difficult or easy has it been for you to be open about your sort of true self, talk about that, in an open and honest fashion as you've been able to do in a time where we're very focused, people call it the attention economy. You only have 30 seconds and sometimes, less to really catch people's attention. So, how difficult or easy has it been for you to be honest on social media and across your brand, and really open up and talk about some of these difficult things you are talking about?
It's been really difficult for me to open up to them, especially when I feel like nobody is listening. I've actually tried to post mental health videos before, and it was like I got blocked from the algorithm entirely, and I wanted to be open and honest, but they didn't want that, and it wasn't pushed to anyone. So I feel like I really wasn't reaching that audience to connect to them and be able to help them too. But I have a hard time being open. Like even some of the songs that I'm releasing soon are very, very vulnerable and come from a very personal place. And I'm a little worried, to see what people think about them because they're very, very personal. And sometimes I'm not as open as I would like to be on the internet. And all these people haven't seen the true struggles behind the scenes, but I think they definitely give a lot of insight into what actually has happened in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you advise? We work with a lot of young people as part of our sort of day-to-day work who struggle with neurodivergence, with disability. I myself have cerebral palsy. Who are struggling with certain mental health issues, but they also want to have a similar level of success to what you've had on social media. What advice would you give to those people to, to maybe shut out the noise, so to speak, and really focus in on creating a message as you've been able to do? I'm sure there are plenty of people, whispering in your ear certain things all the time or leaving you certain messages. What would be your message to somebody who is struggling with those mental health issues, but and wants to create an impact, but maybe doesn't know how to do that, doesn't have that confidence we talked about earlier?
I always say you have to start really slowly. Don't try to throw yourself into something new when you're completely not ready. If this is so scary and you have doubts in your mind, probably take a step back and think about what really you're passionate about and what is going to show. And when you're passionate about something, it truly, truly shows. And sometimes it's just overcoming one small step at a time. Hit that post button, even if only a couple people see it. You posted it and you can take out a big sigh of relief because you did that. And that's only one step to where you want to go. And even if it's not a post, if it's just doing something in daily life, you just have to approach it slowly and try to work yourself there. I didn't start in a day and jump to making everything all at once. It kind of took a while to adjust and figure out where I'm going, but it's okay to take a while to figure out where you want to go. Don't try to push yourself too hard.
Absolutely. That is a lovely message. And I am curious as well, because you didn't have, the simplest journey into the music industry. You decided higher education wasn't for you, which is a route many people go down around the globe, and kind of went and, took a real risk to sort of, go down that social media route. So I'd like to ask you, what have you learned about yourself, from your very beginnings in sort of music and in the creative arts, and making those difficult decisions from that point to where you are now? How would you say, you've changed and developed, and what have you learned about yourself, Bailey?
I used to be very indecisive and just very unsure of where I wanted my music to go and what kind of message I wanted to put forward. I didn't really have a brand nailed in. I didn't know where I was going or really what my aesthetic was or what any of these songs meant to me. And I had a hard time connecting with what I was writing, but it really clicked for me when I just truly started being myself and thinking about what I like and what kind of things I like in music and how I can show that to everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it sounds like it wasn't a difficult decision, again, sort of giving up that educational side of it, and really, putting your heart and soul into these things, because that's the kind of thing I guess people want to do. Some people dream of doing that, and you actually did it and it paid off. It doesn't pay off for everyone, but it sounds like it really worked for you.
Yeah, it was definitely a really big leap. And I didn't know if it was going to work out for me at first. And I had never really lived on my own. I had never had a real job on my own. This was my first job ever. And so I left college not really knowing what the future was going to hold for me. But sometimes you do really have to take that jump. And sometimes it won't work out. And that's okay too. It's okay to take a step backwards and figure it all out. But I'm glad that I took that leap.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, millions of people around the world are as well. I wanted to sort of hone in on one of your tracks, Runner Up. Obviously, there are a couple we'll talk about, My Worst Enemy as well. Your tracks, to me, they're very self-reflective, and I think there's something in it. If you say a 16-year-old young person, or you're an older person, I think there are relatable points to feeling some of these things. If you've got neurodivergence, if you're struggling, if you're your own worst enemy, for example, or if you feel like the runner-up in your own life. And I wonder, was that your goal, to take your own experience and, kind of, what am I trying to say here? Was it your goal to create relatable songs that relate to people of all ages, or did you just kind of write these songs for yourself? Because they do feel very personal as well.
I I love to be relatable, and I really try to be relatable when I'm writing music. And a really big thing to me is I really try to keep pronouns and kind of pointing the finger at people out of it. And Runner Up is the only song on my upcoming EP that even has a pronoun in it. And it's just one her right in the beginning of it. And the rest of it is none. But I wanted them to be relatable. And I wanted them to reach people around the world and have them listen and be like, hey, I feel like this. And even sometimes I'll be thinking about something that happened and I was like, this is what I wrote Runner Up for. Why does it feel like I'm not enough? And it can relate to friendships or relationships or even in your work life. It was for everything. And I like to keep a lot of my songs kind of generic like that, so anyone can relate to it, and it really doesn't matter what situation you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that really comes across, and that's a testament to your creativity as a performer. You talked about this and new music that's coming up, and obviously again there are two singles out there now, lots and lots of videos promoting the songs, which you're doing a fantastic job of doing that. What about this new material can you share with me? And how is it pushing you in new ways as an artist, creating these new songs that people haven't even heard yet?
I think people are going to be really surprised by the songs that are left on the EP. I definitely have been pushing My Worst Enemy the most because it kind of has the most of that radio feel appeal. It does really well on socials. It's super relatable. And the other songs are also very relatable, but they're much darker and they're kind of leaning towards darker pop rock. They're very emo and they're very heavy. One of them is really extremely heavy. And so I'm worried to see what people are going to think about that one, but I think they're going to be shocked that I've ventured all over the place in the kind of pop rock genre. I didn't want to just make a soft song and Runner Up is kind of pop, and then the two in the middle are a little bit harder, and then got to have that nice ballad at the end. But I'm excited to see what people think of the kind of hard rock music, because I love it. It's what I listen to every day.
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually, because obviously you sort of hear, or certainly I hear as a listener, some of that sort of pop punk, the Avril Lavigne sort of stuff that a lot of people grew up on, feel good, even though some of the themes are quite dark. And so what is it that you listen to, when you need motivation, maybe to write one of your own songs, maybe even just to get out of bed in the morning? What is it that you listen to motivate yourself?
I really love Pierce the Veil. Pierce the Veil has been a big inspiration to me recently because I am just obsessed with all their recent stuff and I love it so much. And Paramore and Avril Lavigne have also always been the biggest inspiration to me. I love Hayley Williams' vocal style and the way she can belt, and it really makes you feel it. And even if it is, again, like something sad, the way the songs are so upbeat and it feels like you're being moved, even though it might be some really sad lyrics, it feels a lot better hearing it in rock form. But I love Avril Lavigne's relatability too. A lot of her songs are pretty simple, but they still make you feel something. And that's exactly what I wanted to apply into my music too. But I also love My Chemical Romance, All Time Low. I love All Time Low.
Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic picks there, Bailey. Would it be right then for me to call you a bit of a musical risk taker? Because if you look at if you listen to the sort of tones on Runner Up, it is a little different to My Worst Enemy. And, obviously you look at Paramore and Avril Lavigne and some of those bands haven't been afraid to take risks. From my understanding as a listener, you do come across as the kind of person that even though you're worried a little bit about maybe some of this heavier stuff, you're still willing to do it. And that's quite interesting. You're still willing to do it, even though there's a little bit of fear there about how the audience are going to see it. Is that right? If I called you a risk taker musically, would that be right or wrong?
I feel like it's pretty right because if I wanted to stick with being fully relatable and knowing that people were going to like it, I probably could have made, two more along the lines of Runner Up. But I really wanted to show my artistry. And that's just a part of me. Some days are darker than other. I don't always go in there and write a happy song. So I didn't want all of them to feel upbeat and positive because that's not how I felt in the moment. And, it's called My Worst Enemy. So you got to have some darker aspects in there. But I'm afraid, but I definitely want to put them out there and see what people think about it because I hope that they'll find the right audience.
Absolutely. 4 or 5 more questions now, Bailey. I'm particularly curious as well. I talked about success earlier. I would also like to talk to you about the idea of legacy. So obviously, down the line, many, many years from now, when you've been able to create this success for yourself, do you think about the legacy of what you're trying to do, even at this early stage? I know we're very, very early in the career, 2 singles and an EP coming, of course, but do you think about your legacy much as a performer and a musician and an artist at all, or does that kind of not really register with you?
No, it does register with me. And that's why I've been keeping a lot of my music generic because I really want people to listen to my music and be able to apply it to the situation that they're in, no matter when it is or no matter what year it is. I want it to be something that is for everyone and everyone can listen to. It doesn't matter, gender or anything. I want them to put on my music and relate to it and feel comfortable with me. And it's been a lot to me, a mental health journey along the whole way. So I definitely want to share that with everyone. And I want to make sure that people are able to understand that it's not, all rainbows and fun all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good to see someone who has such a following talking about the fact that things are difficult, because I think that's the perception is such a important part of the industry, from my understanding, where you kind of we're all carefully kind of crafting this image for ourselves. It's actually nice to sort of see you pulling the curtain back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to show some of that. And that's why those two darker tracks are very important to me, because one of them really is a look into my mind, and it's kind of how I felt in one of my worst days. And it was a great song, but it's just very dark.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you certainly feel that as well. And that moves on nicely to my next question. What is it that motivates you, outside of music on, those darker days? Again, we talk to a lot of people with certain issues, and they struggle to get out of bed. They have these creative ideas, like yourself, you want to do these things, but they sometimes they can't even get out of bed, because they're struggling with one thing or another. So on those darker days, Bailey, if you wouldn't mind talking about them with me. What is it outside of music? Is it particular people, family, friends, anything creatively that you do outside of music that gives you that motivation you need?
Usually, if I'm not actually feeling motivated, I tend to take a step back from what I'm doing, because I've learned that trying to force it really doesn't help, especially if I'm trying to write a song or trying to be creative. Sometimes creativity will strike when you don't even expect it. So I don't like to hold myself back, because I'll just get stressed out and then everything is making me mad. So I'll kind of take a break. I get inspired from doing a lot of other things too. Like I love to work out and listen to new music. And sometimes even hearing keywords will give me inspiration for videos, or I'll love a song so much that I've never heard before. And, I'll find a new artist and then be able to kind of expand my music knowledge and be able to find a new track that I like. And, I explore all the genres.
Absolutely, yeah. Sort of again that musical creativity. Before we do the plugging questions, then Bailey, to finish up, I have a very difficult question for you. I'd like you to tell me about a typical day in your life. I've seen you do some ASMR stuff, you do YouTube, you do a bunch of YouTube content with different people as well. You've got a packed schedule. So what is a typical day, if there is one? I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. But tell me about what a day might look like for you in terms of content creation, in terms of just time management, and how you fit it all in, really.
Yeah, some days I do really have a hard time fitting it in. It's hard to create all these videos. And then also when I have a studio session or have to go somewhere, it's hard to find time in the day. But typically on a day that I would like, when I'm not too busy, I wake up, I always immediately get ready and start filming content or editing content immediately. I go straight to work after waking up. I work from home. So all I do is sit here and go on my phone and start editing. And it takes me like probably 4 or 5 hours if I am filming videos to get everything out, edit all of the content, because it takes me maybe an hour or less if I'm quick for one video, especially if I'm going through a lot of footage that I took. So that'll take me a while. And if I have any studio sessions, like the past 2 days I've been in the studio and we were there from 12 to 6 p.m. and then, even longer the first day, I think. So that is also a struggle sometimes. But when that happens, I have to go home and film afterwards. Like I don't have enough time when I wake up in the morning and I'll post something pre-planned. And then I have to film after I get home from actually doing the music, because I'm like, oh, I still haven't done my actual job for the day. But when I don't have a session, I go to the gym.
Nice. That's an intense day, and a good insight to anybody that wants to do full-time content creation, for sure. I actually just thought of one that I really wanted to squeeze in, because I know there are different registers you use on the singles in terms of your vocal. You have a very, very stunning, vocal that I think a lot of people are inspired by. Could you take me back, Bailey, to when you first found your voice, please? Like, when did it just, were you just singing, humming to yourself? Can you take me back to the first time you were like, hey, there's something here?
I always really liked singing when I was growing up. So I would probably blare my parents' ears off in the basement, because I would be just singing karaoke at the top of my lungs. It was my favorite thing to do. I loved musical theater too. So I found it at a really young age. And I always knew that I kind of could sing. I could, stay on the notes. It might have not been the best thing ever, but I knew that I had something there. And then I think when it really clicked for me, I got a little older and I was like, hey, I think if I really applied myself to this, I think I could really improve because I had a lot of power. I just didn't really know what to do with it or where I was supposed to be, locating that power and pushing for that power in my voice. So once I kind of figured that out, it all came really easy to me. And people are still kind of shocked how much I can do in such a short time. But it's because I really did mess around so much with singing as a kid that I think I kind of taught it to myself. I taught myself how to do vibrato. Before I even went into vocal lessons, I taught myself vibrato and I could hold out some crazy notes. So it's been a fun journey.
Oh man, I'm so excited to see how you progress and develop for sure. And in terms of your sort of global fans, obviously we're in the UK. A lot of people listening to you from all over the world. But do you have a message for any fans in the UK that might be listening to this, consuming it in any way? What will be your message for any fans in the UK? Are you coming on tour anytime soon?
I have not planned that yet. I hope that they're listening to it. I do see the UK streaming on Spotify. They're definitely supporting me. So maybe I will be out there soon. I've actually never been out there. So that'll be new too.
I'm going to let you finish us off, Bailey, in terms of, is there anything that I've missed? Have I done my job properly, basically? Is there anything I've missed you'd like to plug and promote before we finish up today?
Probably just that my EP is coming out on August 10th and it's called My Worst Enemy. And 2 of the tracks that are already out are going to be on it. And we got 3 more surprise ones.
Fantastic. Thank you. And just as a little end question, what is the best piece of advice, musically or otherwise, whether it came from a music friend, a family member? Do you have a gem or a piece of advice that you carry with you every day, whether you're in the gym, whether you're doing a TikTok video, whatever you're doing, something that stays with you that you've taken from somebody, a bit of advice maybe? I'll put you on the spot now.
Yeah. I don't know if I've taken it from anyone else. I'm very cheesy, but I'm always myself. Like even if I'm kind of weird, I get a lot of people call me weird and I do really weird things online. And I'm like, even though I may be weird, like this is me and you guys are gonna have to accept that. So even if people judge you a little bit, just like do what you want to do, Be yourself. Life is too short to be comparing yourself to other people and worrying about what people think about you. Who cares? Do what you want. Get a mohawk, get a tattoo, do everything.
I love it. I think that works for a lot of people. Certainly I took something from that. So Bailey, thank you so much for making the time for me. I really, really appreciate it. It's been absolutely been really, really great speaking to you, and I cannot wait to do this again. Obviously, you're you got one hell of a career in front of you, and I'm so excited for your future. So thank you so much for making the time for me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.